Well, welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Travis Garland, founder of Kickstand AI, where we help wellness organizations enhance their voice and amplify their impact through intelligent automation and AI technologies. Today, I'm honored to welcome Brian Alexander. He's a change maker who left a high-powered legal career to return to the south side of Chicago and help lead Project Hood, a not-for-profit transforming lives through leadership, opportunity, and health equity. His story is one of purpose, resilience, and most certainly a deep commitment to community empowerment. Today, we'll dive into what community data is really telling us about the gaps in underserved communities and how organizations like Project Hood are using those insights to drive change. We'll do all that through a conversation on 4 different topics. Of course, first, we'll hear from Brian, who'll introduce himself and Project Hood. We'll explore how Project Hood is optimizing its knowledge of community care gaps. We'll examine the current initiatives to leverage community engagement, and then we'll wrap it all up with a chat on how technology and AI might play a role in expanding the reach of Project Hood. So with that, Brian, welcome to the podcast.
Oh man, thank you so much, Travis, man. Super excited to be here with you. Just thank you again for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. So tell us a little bit about yourself and give us a bit of an introduction to Project Hood.
Will do. So my name is Brian Alexander. I grew up here on the south side of Chicago, a neighborhood called Inglewood. Long story short, man, I left Chicago to go to school in Washington, D.C. because I felt like that was the best way to help my community. All right. After about 15 years or so of that, I realized, I really got to get my hands and feet back on the ground. I realized I kind of just become a bit of a cultural elite to an extent. And I knew that I just wasn't close enough to the heartbeat of things that are going on that I tended to care so much about. So kind of like after COVID was winding down, I had an opportunity to kind of audit my impact to a degree. And I was like, man, we could just be doing a lot better, Brian. So I decided to move back home back to the same hood, but this time, with an eye towards just being as much of a contribution kind of as I could. And that journey ended up leading me to go and start volunteering at my church. My church, New Beginnings Church of Chicago, has a nonprofit organization called Project Hood. The Hood stands for Helping Others Obtain Destiny. We operate on Chicago's south side.
I think we're gonna have to hit that again because that's a powerful acronym. I don't know if everyone was ready for that. So Project Hood.
No, absolutely, yeah. Project Hood stands for Helping Others Obtain Destiny.
I like it.
And that's literally that's our North Star. That's what we do. As long as we're helping people, then we're gung ho and we're like, let's do it. So it's just, it's a really phenomenal place, man. And the organization has grown a ton over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, from like 5 employees. Now we're closer to 100 employees, and less than 10 of us have college degrees. So these are folks who are directly from the community that we are serving, folks who have really committed to transforming their lives and the lives of the folks around them and their community. And that's one of the cool things that Project Hood does, man. We provide a lot of that sort of support for individuals, provide that opportunity for individuals and an environment of, loving accountability.
Like it.
So it's been cool.
It's a great story. I know there's a 3-part series that has been recorded and I think transcribed out there. I certainly would encourage folks to reach out there. Maybe we'll put a little bit of a link and a plug out there if you're up for it. So I enjoyed reading it. It's a powerful story, a positive narrative, and certainly you're living what your dream is and what you've been called to do. It sure seems that way anyway. So one of the things that sort of brings us together here are 2 different areas. One of them is community engagement. The other is sort of this data and automation AI kind of world that we're living in these days. And what often happens when those 2 things intersect is that you have these conversations about data and about technology, but you also need to continue the storyline, the narrative, the human side of things as people tell their story. And as you and I were talking a little bit earlier, it was pretty clear that Project Hood still emphasizes in a very heavy way those human narratives, the storyline, the going to events and being a part of the neighborhood that really contributes to bringing everybody together. But how do you balance the difference between a pure just technology data points kind of thing with the human narrative and the storyline that you hear on a day-to-day basis? How do those 2 things come together for you guys at Project Hood?
Yeah, so I think probably from 2 lenses, probably bottom down and bottom up, right? So bottom up, of course, being like grassroots, really listening to folks, understanding what's happening on the ground, honestly, just listening to the stories that they tell. A lot of times folks will come in and they are voicing one issue, but as you listen, you're like, wait, that's not really the issue. That's just annoying you right now. But really, if we fix this and this, then will that fix everything? So it's there are things that just the data just won't bear because of the communication barriers, right? And then from a funder standpoint, right, it's about educating funders as much as we can on just the philosophy around, like, there are some folks, for example, Ken Griffin of Citadel Capital, he gave $1 million last week toward the campaign. And it's so funny, for a $25,000 grant that we get, there are like pages and pages of requirements and reporting and all this stuff that you have to do. Ken Griffin sends this thing over, man. It's like 2 pages, maybe.
He's like, just use it well.
Yeah, unless exactly. You have to really, give seed to the folks, to the sowers, right? And get out of their way. So a lot of our funders, like Ken Griffin and like the McCormick Foundation as well, they really are just extremely forward thinking. And not so much tied to the metrics, but they're tied to the stories of transformation, right? And the results. So we can give you metrics, right? But the stories are the things that's really going to change folks' lives. It's really going to connect as well. So we tend to focus a lot on storytelling, a lot on educating, and obviously just service.
Yeah, it's the bottleneck that you just referenced, that technical component of somebody saying, here's some cash, do well with it, but here's 15 things you've got to achieve, or standards you have to meet, or things you've got to do on the backside of stuff. That certainly can contribute to just bogging down the process at times of being able to use money as well and as effectively as you can imagine. And that it feels like with some donors or funders, that's something that, as they feel like you guys are a trusted organization to be able to use that money wisely, they hand it over and say, this is how we manage the community and the neighborhood impact. This is how we want to be doing it. But so tell me, when you get large funds like that, maybe not what do you do with it, but maybe ask it a little bit differently. What has come out of the use of those kinds of dollars that you didn't expect? What was a surprise that just kind of hits you in the face? Like, man, we just got a fantastic ability to do something, and when we did it, boom! This was something I was not ready for. What's that thing for you?
Yeah, I think it would be, gifts like that gift from Ken Griffin and like the gift from the McCormick Foundation. The larger gifts, those serve as validators. Right? There's no organization or who has higher standards than Ken Griffin, right? If Ken Griffin said, okay, right, and he's going to give, then what's your excuse, right? So that's really a lot of the power in getting those larger gifts, because a lot of times what you find out within this nonprofit space is that, there are just a lot of people that don't have the authority to say no that are saying no. Right, and there's a lot of work that really could be getting done and transforming a lot of lives that just doesn't get to happen because of that. So like that's the thing that we really want to. And with or without particular sects of funders, we are going to do this work. We just truly do believe that God will provide always. So we just keep the main thing, and just look for opportunities to kind of just to partner with donors and partner with the foundations in a way that helps them to better understand the value that they're getting, right, out of those dollars that they're investing, and that also put us in a position where we can be flexible and do the things that we really need to do to build a strong organization. One of our goals now is to endow the organization, right? Now just beginning to kind of understand like what that really means, right? To live off the interest, right? I'm like, I have to start living like this myself, but that's kind of the direction that we're headed in, is just to really sustain everything, and then begin to expand to some other geographies as well. Yeah,
man, you're saying a lot of stuff right there. One of the things that you just said that kind of struck me when you start thinking about a faith-based organization and being able to scale. Certainly, you're going to be able to feed 5,000, right? You're going to be doing stuff that really hits on things like generational wealth. And as you were saying that, I was immediately thinking about all of the work that you guys do in your neighborhood events, like all the outreach that's done, the events that are put on to help out. And you mentioned that sort of endowment of the organization. That's an important piece of the generational wealth building, not only for the organization, but also for a lot of community members, your neighbors that are sitting out there. And I might pause this on that, because I'm going to come back around and ask you a little bit about the event piece. I'm just queuing you up for the fact that I want to come back around to that good stuff. But tell me a little bit when you think about the limitations, and so maybe the opposite side of that scaling comment. when you get very large or loud donations, it can mean you can scale pretty quickly. But oftentimes there might be a limitation that's there. You guys went from 5 to 100 staff members. You guys probably have a great deal of capacity now that you didn't have 5, 10, 15 years ago, almost 15 years ago, maybe. But what's the limitation as you think, especially about the technology or the data pieces? Is that where the limitation is, or is there a limitation in something else that's in that space that's keeping you from scaling to other geographies outside of just pure cash?
Oh man, I think it's just, honestly, I think you just have to find like the right opportunity and partners, right? You need the right foundation in order to really do it well. So it really just means, working with the correct partners, serving, like, for example, we'll be in Washington, D.C. this weekend, and we're throwing a block party in Southeast. Like,
all right.
So
that's why you're all excited today, no doubt.
I know, right?
You're in a good mood. Go to a block party. Come on.
I know, it's going to be nuts. It's absolutely crazy. But, just being able to be in community and serve directly, without pretense, is just a critical piece. But you have to, you can't go in and say, hey, I'm here to serve with no pretense, right? You have to really be present, be there, wait for those opportunities to arise, execute those opportunities. And then things really begin to open up. One thing that Pastor Brooks says all the time is folks don't want to know what you know until they know that you care. Right. So for us, we just try to lead with caring, lead with service, lead with compassion, lead with how can we fulfill these immediate needs, right? Get you to calm down. And now we can get on the path to going from surviving to thriving now. Yeah. So that's a bit of the approach.
Yeah, it's fair. So tell me about, maybe not the block party, but tell me about the event. What's happening in DC? Because of course you were out there for a while, and now you're going back there, but for a party. But there's got to be something else in there. What are you guys up to?
Yeah, so we actually got a couple of events this week. We'll be hosting a luncheon, meet and greet sort of deal on Capitol Hill. On tomorrow, we'll have some elected officials that'll be out. Some folks who are just fans of the organization, donors, are going to be out. And again, just spreading the word about Project Hood. Just building as many great relationships as we can, and just looking for as many opportunities as we can to help as many people as we can. Honestly, that's really it's the most fun job to have ever. I just wake up how can I help somebody today? It's a pretty cool thing.
That'll get you charged up, right? I mean that you wake up with a good mission like that for your day, and your day can't go down. It's sort of like you're just constantly looking for the new thing to help people understand their destiny. What's their purpose? What are they there for? So
of course, and you get to understand your own too. I think that's the other part. Is that the best way to help yourself is through helping others, without a doubt.
All right,
without a doubt.
Let me swing back to the Leadership and Economic Opportunity Center. Fantastic space. It feels like one that was not only driven by probably a fair chunk of funds, but the vision, the compassion. Where do we put it? How do we integrate the community into this? How do we really scale our voice through this opportunity center? Tell me a little bit about what's happening there.
Yeah. So across the street from our church, New Beginnings Church, long story short, there used to be this motel there. It's the center of sex trafficking, drug trafficking, all these things. And what ended up happening, our church was trying to shut it down. This wasn't really working. And one day, we had a funeral in the church of a young boy. And I'm going to fast forward this whole story. But we had a funeral for a kid who was a victim of gun violence. During that funeral, the Holy Spirit came to Pastor Brooks and said, there are guns inside of this church, and I need you to get them. So he makes an announcement.
During the service?
During the service.
Okay.
Asks the police if he can do an on-the-spot gun turn-in. They say yes. He proceeds and prays, and I think he thought it was going to be this Billy Graham crusade type of moment, and we're throwing guns at the altar. It wasn't quite like that.
Okay.
It was literally silent for probably 60 or 90 seconds, which in a situation like that is really like an eternity.
Feels like it.
But as it would happen, man, 3 young men ended up turning in weapons. And then they found a 4th underneath the seat. So for Pastor Brooks, it's this is a miracle. God, whatever you want me to be doing about this thing, I'm all in. Yeah. And as he walks out of the door of the church, what's across the street? that motel that had all this sex trafficking, drug trafficking, all this crazy stuff. And the Holy Spirit comes to him again and says, I want you to go up on the rooftop of that motel and not come down until you raise enough funds to purchase it, demolish it, and build a community center instead. This was in 2011. So Pastor Brooks, he stayed on the roof for 94 days. Out of those efforts, Project Hood was born.
Wow.
So we've been there doing the work for some time now. The church has been there this is our 25th anniversary. It's going to be coming up in November. So fast forward, man, we just in the community doing the work. And about 6 years ago, Desmond, our current executive director, grew up in the church with me, went away, came back, and just started helping out. And I did the same thing. And we embarked on this campaign to raise what was then $25 million for the facility. It's now like 47.
Wow. $47 million.
Yes, 47 is absolutely nuts. These numbers, they just mean completely different things to you now once you're in them. But it's but this vision of this leadership and economic opportunity center is really just a hub of transformation, right? Like anything that our neighborhood is so devoid of everything, restaurants and grocery stores. Like the only bank, we have a bank. We just put a bank. It's going to be a bank inside of there. It'll be the only bank for 2 miles.
Oof.
Right. So when you talk about investment in communities, you talk about investment in people. It's kind of like, how if there's no banks, like no community bank, So there's that piece. We're really excited about that. We're partnering with Wintrust there, and we also are going to feature a federally qualified health center. It's called Friend Health. They're extremely popular here in the city on the South Side, providing great service and care to folks in the community as well. So we're really, really excited about being able to partner with them, as well as the University of Chicago's School of Medicine. We started a free clinic with them. So each year we get like a new crop of med students that comes through. And really, it's dope. And med students of color coming through the hood and like white coats. I'm like, I need more of this, because it's really about exposure, and that's really what the Leadership and Economic Opportunity Center is really built for. It's built for exposure to kind of be that hub. So in addition to the Friend Health and we're providing comprehensive health care, we also have 3 restaurants, three restaurant franchises that we're opening that we will serve as our vehicles for our culinary arts training as well. So we'll be training all the folks folks from the hood are going to be working these. We literally are preparing them right now to move into these positions. Absolutely. We have a strong belief and push for entrepreneurship and just being financially
Hold on, Brian. You like blew me out of the water with this real quick, because like I was going to go back to the events thing, because I had seen a couple. There's some gatherings and some stuff like that. I saw a couple of little flyers recently that are sitting out there on entrepreneurship, on generational wealth, on hiring fairs, on education, nursing degrees, and whatnot. And I was prepared to have a conversation about that, and then you come at me with all of this, and I'm thinking, this guy has so much stuff lined up. I mean, when you start talking about bringing in medical school interns and residents, new med school folks who are rolling through, helping out, you've got culinary educational sessions or schoolings or certifications, whatever it might be, to be able to staff up these restaurants that you're bringing in. A bank? Like
it's our bank too. Like we try. It's the Southside Community Bank, chartered for our location.
Crazy.
It's nuts.
It's amazing work. That's amazing work, Brian. And it feels like, as chief of staff, you've got all the inside scoop on all this great stuff that's happening. But it doesn't sound like you guys are an organization that's an insulated organization. It sounds like you guys are building a community. You guys are building a whole neighborhood, well beyond outside of yourself, outside of the church, outside of the blocks you guys are on. And
that's the idea. We need a community of folks that just wants to help people, help somebody. That's the push.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing stuff. So, as you think of your, I'll not say, you used a phrase when you were in law school, when you were practicing, and I forget what it was. I in my head, it was sort of the ivory tower concept, but I think you said the cultural elite or something to that effect.
Yes, your coastal elites.
Coastal elites. And it's sort of resonated of like you're sort of coming back and you're doing things, but now you're in a position now that you are creating monumental change for your neighborhood. Where do you see the next 3 years? And I'm gonna pull you a little bit back into the sort of technology space a little bit, only so much to say how much of that can be supported by enhancements in those automations and the outreach efforts and the technology associated with it. But I'm really interested in where you guys want to go you and I could talk later about how you might be able to help. But man, tell me about what's the next 3 years for you guys.
Yeah. So today we signed our lease for Project Hood, Gary, Indiana.
Indiana. You got to fill me in. Where? Tell me about
Gary, Indiana is just outside of Chicago.
Okay.
Used to be a steel town, but the steel industry has long since left, and it is. Yeah, man. It's it's just there's nothing there. You know, it's just like abandoned home, vacant lot, abandoned home. Meanwhile, you have, there's still, it's on Lake Michigan, so there's beachfront property too. But then you have this heavy concentration of poverty. Gary has about 65,000 residents, and 33% of them are below the poverty line. So whereas like in Woodlawn, our number one issue was a violence issue. They have some violence, but that's not the main thing. The main thing here is upskilling folks and getting them to the opportunities, right? And then helping them to get into homes, right? That's really, so we're excited about kind of just figuring the whole thing out, kind of cracking the nut over there, and just helping a ton of people. We've just met some amazing partners out there too, some folks who are just doing some really, really great work. So we're kind of excited to kind of go and do it all over again and build it all up from the ground, and of course with the input of the community, right? Like they don't need violence, so they need jobs, they need opportunities, they need housing, right? Yeah. We have entrepreneurs who are right on the cusp. They need a little bit of help. Let's get them that help, right? So that we can start to build some sustainable businesses and begin to build a foundation of rebuild that economic foundation again, right? And then on the other side of that is it's the people themselves, right? And working with those individuals, right? To just be with them along the way, let them know like, hey, you got this. I know that happened. Yeah, that's crazy, but we still got to go forward. We still got to do what we got to do, and this is how you handle this. So you'll be surprised at the leaps that folks will take if you're willing to kind of stand in the gap there with them.
Wow. So Gary is probably going to take a ton of energy, right? There's a lot of value to be gained there in Gary, Indiana, and what you guys are going to be standing up in that space. Do you see the same type of roadmap there as you do in Chicago? Meaning not necessarily the same issues that have sort of led to the reason for you guys being there. It sounds like violence versus SDOH, social determinants of health kind of stuff. Yeah. But do you see that same kind of roadmap being applied where you really are looking at raising up the community? You've got to put natural resources in place, the banking and the restaurant institutions. You got to educate folks, and you got to that roadmap. Do you see the same kind of continuation there then?
Yeah, there are definitely some similarities there. From a business perspective, I just feel like it's such a right place. It should just be such a vibrant city, but because of politics and things like that over the years, it just has not panned out that way. So we look forward to one of our great partners is Ozinka Concrete. They actually provided the concrete for our project pro bono, and they're opening a plant right on the water in Gary. They're taking over an old steel shop, so there are things like that are coming together where it's like we can start to train these folks to get ready to take on these jobs and get them ready to move into positions of leadership as well. And to another degree, we've kind of become property developers by mistake, and we realized that it's just a really great way to revitalize a community as well. So we'll be looking forward to buying, rehabbing homes, building them from the ground up, while also at the same time preparing folks and their credit, jobs, and everything to be able to move directly into those homes. I think that's going to be a huge piece of the puzzle. The jobs and the home ownership piece. I think once you get those two, you kind of get things moving a bit, but no shortage of ideas over here, man. So
that's true. And, execution's key, right? It's sort of those bankers, they like to have data, they like to understand what's happening. And you guys have an incredible storyline, that's for sure, which no doubt contributes to the fantastic donors that you guys already have on play. And certainly when you think of folks that are pulling into your new city, maybe, I'm not sure if there's anything between the border of those two towns. Is there a river, or is it just like land between those two places?
Really just land.
Really
just land. Yeah, really just land. You could take the streets, you could take a little highway, but it's just land. It's all right there together. So
Gotcha.
Yeah, a ton of opportunity there.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And anything that I keep getting back to this event stuff because you really blew me out of the water with all that stuff. Anything else, Brian, that you're thinking of right now? Obviously, you've got some big plans for this weekend. You got some big plans coming up in the next couple of years with respect to Gary, Indiana, but certainly the continuation of what's happening there on the South Side. what's your guys' plan for the future? What, any last words of wisdom for folks?
Man, our aim is really to plant New Beginnings churches and Project Hoods, in these underserved communities, in these blocks that deserve a comeback, right? That have the ability to really make a comeback. I guess that's really a part of the reason why Pastor Brooks is walking across America. We make it a point to walk through and serve those neighborhoods, like walking through Trenton, New Jersey, and Kensington, and Pennsylvania, right? We're in Southeast in DC, right? Because that's where the need is, and that's what we do, man. We run to the need. And I guess I'll end with this. I guess you heard this little story about, like, if you're scared and there's chaos going on around, like, look for the helpers, like, be the helper, because somebody's looking and they're looking for some encouragement, right? So be that helper, even when you don't think anybody is looking. Be that helper. Sow those seeds, like, they will not return void.
Well, Brian, I feel like I should be doing more, because you're sort of this model guy that's sitting out there, and I'm trying to figure out, man, I feel like there's a calling there for sure. But certainly, as anybody has an opportunity to help others obtain their destiny, it feels like you're putting out a calling card here right now to just say, listen, if you guys are up for it, we need you guys to lean in, right?
Man, absolutely. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few, man. And this is, to your point, this is work that, to a degree, you do have to be called to it. To a degree, because it does get difficult and challenging in ways that really would have boggled my mind. They have been boggling my mind, but now I've kind of just become more accustomed to it. But just the humanity of it all, and actually seeing people grow over time, which is not something that I hadn't been in one place long enough to actually see that. Right, to run into someone whose attitude I just cannot stand, and then now they're my bestie, right? Or now, this person, I really had ill thoughts. I didn't know exactly what they were about, and then, it comes around, you see this person really transform, and that's really a part of the infrastructure and the real, the magic of Project 2 is that grace factor as well. You'll as many times as you're willing to get back up, we'll be right there with you, 1,000%. I think that just makes a ton of difference. So, man, just thank you again for the opportunity. Man, we got to get you out to come visit too. We got a hard hat waiting on you.
I like it.
We got to make it happen.
That's fair. I absolutely appreciate the time, Brian. You're an inspiration on many levels. Just sort of where you're coming from, where you got going. It really feels like the future is brighter than your past, for sure. And even though you've had such a powerful one, I think you've got a lot coming your way. That's for sure. So obviously, Project Hood's investing in some fantastic things in our communities across state lines, and you guys are out there in the communities doing your thing, and certainly helping your light shine in the faith-based community as well. So fantastic organization.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. Keep us in your prayers. And yeah, we got to get to this AI topic thing. I got a lot to say. I'm a really huge fan of technology.
That's fair.
And yeah, especially with this whole quantum thing, I'm curious about your opinions of kind of like how this thing might play out.
Yeah. So, well, I will. I'll tell you what. I will. We'll cut this at some point here, Brian. Yeah. So no worries. We'll splice it out at a good point. You made some really powerful final comments in there that I'll cut it to those points probably because just sort of listen to you. I think what really comes out of it, your face says it all. When you're talking about what's happening in Project Hood and what you're up to and where you're going, you can just tell. You sort of just light up in a way that it's sort of contagious in a way. But I would say that there's I'll sort of hitch on the logistics piece here real quick, just so we don't get too far away off of our podcast. I'll go back in. What I'll do is I'll probably cut out a couple different little clips, maybe a minute or so each. I'll send those over to you. I'll just send you some links so you can take a look at them and just make sure they kind of make sense to you. You guys obviously can use them for whatever you want. As soon as we finalize all the different pieces, the links will do some segments and whatnot. I'll get you all the downloads, and you should be pretty good to go from there. The next meeting, and I'll probably put something. We can hopefully schedule something the next maybe after you get back from DC.
Yeah, anytime next week works.
Okay, we'll get on the books here in just a minute before we jump off. I'll make sure that the links that I send over to you, they look okay. We'll sort of finalize a few other things, and I think one of the things that really comes out of this is your ability and maybe just your personal interest in sort of the AI space is one thing. The ability for it to really help drive some of the efficiencies for Project Hood. You're sort of mentioning things that are triggers in my head of, man, I know that we can do something to help out. I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah, you got to talk about what's possible.
Yeah, there's always the possible. So I would love to just kind of sit down, and maybe the next conversation is maybe it's a more of a targeted conversation if you wouldn't mind, where I can sort of ask you questions about really where your guys' struggles are. Like where's the hiccup? Like where do you guys spend a ton of your manual time just doing stuff? How do you organize donors and grant money applications, and how do you ensure that the social media stuff goes out well, and how do you manage volunteers? And there's a ton of stuff in there. Sure.
I'm just hoping that they unify it. I'm like, guys, there's no reason. Honestly, I was thinking the other day, I'm like, apps are probably going to be obsolete. Because you won't really need one way to get one thing done. In an ideal world, we'll be able to speak to my AI can program or do whatever I might need it to do. Because in the end, now these are pretty simple tasks now.
And,
right?
Apps in their own way are sort of like nodes of information and utility. And I would say that even OpenAI, ChatGPT just recently came out with a beta that they're going to be pushing out soon enough, right? Where they're going to be connecting directly to apps and utilizing app data directly on their platform. Organizations, some of the platforms, LLMs that are out there are going to be doing pure sales. Like you can buy stuff directly through their platforms. I think I heard that on maybe Anthropic was doing that, or Grok maybe. Forget which one, but where they're essentially big Grok. It's like
Grok has no guardrails. Okay, no.
You gotta figure out how to manage that. But, there's just some really cool stuff, and I love the fact that one, you have an interest in it, and two, it sounds like you have more knowledge than the average person, at least maybe because of your interest and your passion. But
it's all really interesting to me. I'm kind of digging into the intersection of quantum consciousness and faith. I've just been kind of just like playing around there for the last year or so. I'm like, I'm super deep. Like quantum is that's what's next. Really, it's going to literally change everything.
Yeah. It will. Yeah. It will quite literally change the consciousness of the human spirit. Like there's that intersection is one that when you think of something as I'll say as simple as like a companion bot, we do there are opportunities right now in places like memory care residential facilities. Just chatting with a couple of ladies yesterday, and their point of this was, hey, we would love to be able to integrate some AI capabilities into this. They've got incredible technology when they're referencing things like incontinence because of older folks that are there. Some fantastic technology that they're using inside of your clothing to make sure that they don't have to wake you up unnecessarily, and doing all sorts of like fun stuff. Like
that's super cool.
Really fun.
Right.
It's like they've got stuff going, right? But the companion element of this, of like how you talk and interact with an AI agent, a bot, a robot that might be sitting in front of you, was the concept of the human experience and talking to a bot, and you start talking about quantum and how faith rolls into that. As well as anybody else, Brian, that as soon as things like social media algorithms that continue to feed you something over and over again, it becomes just part of your ingrained habit, right? It becomes your structure. And then the next question is, well, what happens if you have a companion bot? Like, does that companion just reinforce what you already have, or does it help challenge your paradigms, your schema around the world? And do you want it to, right? And I mean, that's a faith question right there.
Wow. Yeah. And there's only one truth. So we'll get there one way or the other. It may get a little rocky along the way, and some folks may start to freak out along the way, and things are going to get challenged. But I honestly do believe that everything is just it's all going to point back to God anyway. So
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to set up our next conversation. Let's look real quick. It sounds like anytime next week is okay.
What works best for you?
Okay. I will. I'm going to look at my schedule real fast, just because it gets a little crazy. I know that I've got time on Tuesday, the 28th. Should be plenty of opportunities in there. Does that time work okay for you? Like say
Tuesday.
2:00 on Tuesday, Eastern time. 2 Eastern time.
2 Eastern. That'll be 1.
Yep.
2 Central. Yep. 1 Central. Actually, I have a 1 o'clock. It won't last the entire time. Can we do like?
We can slide to Wednesday. We can do this. We can do 2 o'clock on Wednesday.
Nope. I got manager's meeting.
Okay. How about can you do a little bit earlier on Tuesday, say 11?
Yep. Sure.
Okay. Let's do that. I'm gonna just book it for an hour, and the only reason is because I think we'll spend a little bit of time on the recording stuff. Usually that's only like 5 or 10 minutes, but then I'm gonna bring a little bit more information just about maybe some quantum stuff, just because it might be interesting for you and I to talk about it, but also just some thoughts around how we may be able to support whatever challenge you have, and I'll walk into that a little bit more deeply, because we tailor everything, Brian. It's not, we have tools most certainly, but depending on what it is that you guys are struggling with, that you'd like to have some support with, it changes. So I don't ever like to just throw some stuff out, because
it's going to be a great conversation, because we are like literally, I have to hire for this. Like, I don't know the problems that I'm going to have, but if I can, but I think that with a great thought partner such as yourself, I think just talking through some of the things and some of the planned future states, that we'll be able to at least build out a foundational framework that we can build on as we go.
And
evolve.
We can certainly just kick it off and see where it goes, and if it's a small partnership, but it has a framework to build into, and you can use that framework to help do your hiring and build out whatever that might look like for you guys, and we can be along for the ride for any part of it. That's perfectly fine. So we'll figure it out.
Man, that'll be awesome.
I like it.
Let's make it happen.
All right. I've got us squared away. It's 10 o'clock on Tuesday. Well, 11 o'clock Eastern time, 10 your time on Tuesday.
Yes, you got it.
All right, sir. All right, have a good weekend.
Thanks again.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.